Welcome back to the Dark Side of Real Estate. I'm Paige Hardy.
And I'm Palmer Hardy.
And I'm Jill Hardy.
It's Nana Hardy.
Nana Jill.
So welcome back. Nana Jill's here again. We're all wearing the same outfits because it's the same day, or we just did this on purpose?
I showered, came back, and dressed in the same outfit.
And have not moved from the spot. I've literally been here for 3 days. Okay, so let's talk about some crazy experiences that we've had to encounter over the years. I'll go first because this is a more recent.
Yes.
More recent.
I'm sure Jill can rack her brain for 20 years worth of crazy stories, but we'll start with a recent one.
Yeah, we'll start with a recent one. So basically, I had a buyer in contract and took a while to get everything signed. And then, y'all remember this, the day we opened escrow, I get a call from the listing agent that the seller wants to cancel. She doesn't want to sell her house anymore. She changed her mind. And obviously, I was blown away. This was the first time in almost 9 years that I've ever had this happen, which us three know that is
legally
you're
speaking.
Not supposed to do that.
Let's just throw that out there. A seller cannot cancel on a buyer unless the buyer does not perform, which means you're not meeting deadlines, you didn't submit the money you're supposed to, et cetera.
Not the day of opening escrow.
Right. Like, so a buyer has to do something wrong first. Let's just put it in layman's terms. Buyer has to do something wrong. Seller has to be like, hey, you did something wrong. Give them notice. Then buyer still doesn't do it. Then a seller can cancel.
Yes.
So a seller can't just be like, change my mind.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
But basically
this is
what she did.
But so backstory, obviously this lady's been through a hard time. She's not my client. Obviously, I'm not.
But you're
representing
human.
her, but I'm a human, so I get it.
Yeah.
She lost her husband, etc. So I call up my client and I go, listen, these are the things that you can do, okay? But is it worth it? You need to figure that one out. We decided not worth the struggle because she wasn't going to cooperate.
Because what would the seller do? Do you think if you were saying you were just like, no, you can't cancel?
She wouldn't let us in the house. She wouldn't have let us do appraisal. We wouldn't have been able to do a home inspection. We wouldn't have been able to do anything. So I told my client, up to you. Obviously, at the end of the day,
you want to fight this?
You want to fight this? This poor lady, obviously is going through a lot. Let's move on. Side note: we ended up finding a better house, so it worked out. But we get the cancellation, and the cancellation actually said was not happy with my agent, and my husband just passed a couple weeks ago. We're like, well, I thought you knew that, and the agent was very transparent with us the whole time. She had this poor lady had to be with her. She even went there to drop off her ashes. For her husband. I mean, the whole thing was crazy. Okay, let's fast forward 2 weeks later. And by the way, this property had 3 or 4 offers, I think, and they had ended up going with ours. Fast forward, she ends up listing it again for actually $5,000 higher with a different agent. And this agent I actually know. And I talked to her and I go, listen, I'm like,
do you know what happened?
Do you know what happened? Like, I'm concerned because we were under the impression maybe the seller was getting coerced by someone else and was getting, information during this time. And she's like, I had no idea. But she told me that the seller told her she could not accept, and it was a list of these 4 buyers. And, I told her, hey, that was one of mine.
Yeah.
And that because otherwise she's, going to have to owe the other agent a commission.
Because this is what happens when you have a listing, even if the seller changes their mind like this, well, for usually it's about 6 months is normal. If any of those buyers that had offered or had seen the house during that time period for 6 months, you owe that agent commission.
If it closes.
And it's for things like this where you can't
just
be like, I don't like you. And then you want to try and continue selling your house.
But don't forget, the agent also has to give the list of the buyers.
Yeah, she did. She did. No, it was a list of, it was on the cancellation. If any of these buyers an agent came back and they submitted an offer, they would owe
her a
Joe Bob a commission.
So she would basically be paying 3 commissions.
Yeah. So obviously that puts the new listing agent in a predicament. And
because there might have only been those 6 groups of people who were ever interested in your home.
As of right now, that house is still on the market.
And it's been a month?
And it's been over a month.
Wow.
So
because they got offers within the first week. So that proves anyone who is excited about your house saw it and offered on it. And or offered on it, right? now that those excited people are not able to buy your house because you're being cheap about it, basically what's happening.
Yeah.
Now who's going to buy your house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that price?
Yeah.
So she shot herself in the foot.
She did.
Yes.
And again, I get she's going through a lot of mental things going on probably. But the fact
I mean, everyone
that,
grieves differently, right?
Yeah, but it was just wild. So if there are any potential sellers, doesn't matter where you are in California, if you're in Sacramento, Yreka, or San Diego or Temecula,
Yeah.
just know when you accept a buyer's offer and there's an executed contract, you cannot cancel that
Without
if
repercussions.
you want to, just cause without repercussions.
Yes.
So,
But also, this is maybe to implore you to be very sure about your decision to, one, list your house, and two, sign with the right agent, because there are consequences to changing your mind, whether it's legit or not. Like if you are truly unhappy with your agent, for sure cancel. Don't get stuck with them. But there are things that could happen.
Yes.
That are negative.
Yeah,
Yes.
because people always think, oh, I've signed this contract, like I can't get out of it. Even with buyer's agency listing agreements, if it hasn't gone anywhere, you are more than
But don't let an offer come to the table, accept it, and then
get
change
the
your
then
mind.
cancel.
my poor
Oh my
buyers got there.
gosh.
It like yes, it needed a little bit of work in it, but it fit their criteria perfectly.
Yeah.
The only good thing is that the one that we're actually closing on in a couple weeks
For a
is
little
in
bit more
and
is-
is in a non-high fire zone, where that house was in a high fire zone, so they were actually going to have to pay more
Right.
because of how that's all
Oh my gosh.
situated.
Can we, I think you know more, one of you knows more about this than me. I'm not really sure, but we were talking about it recently. Another dark side of real estate is if you ever make too many insurance claims on your home, it can make it so the next buyer can't get insurance and then therefore doesn't want to buy your house.
That happened to me.
Yes.
That was
Yes,
you.
that happened to me.
Yes.
So there was a house, and you know what? The listing agent was kind of sketchy. Again, okay, so I'm representing a buyer. We go look at this house. Again, fits all their boxes in a nice area, low taxes, HOA. So she's telling me, like, so it fallen out of escrow. I was in escrow for like 3 months, some crazy, crazy stuff. And
Normal escrow is
we put in an offer and they claimed that they had multiple offers. And they're like, yeah, if you accept our seller counter, like we'll open escrow today. Well, my buyers are obviously like on the fence. And what I've been doing ahead of time is before I even put in an offer, I contact our insurance broker and I say, hey, can you look this up? See if it's in a high fire zone. Just do
number
this.
1 million, why we're better.
Yeah. So I had him do all this research. Anyway, before I did not send them the seller counter offer yet. I didn't do any of that stuff. He comes back to me and he goes, this house has had like 3 water insurance claims. Like this house is going to be pretty hard to get insurance on.
Or very high, right?
Or super duper
Very
high.
high.
Like you're going to have to pay a lot of money. And so I told my buyers that and I was like, this seems a little sketch. That house is still on the market. So you had
Why?
multiple offers, huh?
Yeah.
I guarantee you those other buyers agents were doing back-end research on insurance claims. But
Well,
but there probably wasn't any other buyers. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Because here's the nice thing, right? When you buy a house, you have your investigation period, right? You can always do that research, but why get into escrow, submit your earnest money deposit, and then find out all the scary things?
Yeah.
Because there are things we can find out ahead of time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That with the insurance and with title, having title pull a report on
Well,
it for
if
you.
a good listing agent gets the preliminary title report, right? And so you can ask for it. I mean, the buyer's agent doesn't usually get it, but you can still ask for it just to make sure there's nothing. Because that I have had that happen to me before, where there was a title issue, and they had to pull it off the market because it was going to take however long. Because it turns out they needed to go through probate. I was like, just kidding. We're not getting into escrow today. Sorry. But again, gets everyone's hopes up because it's not until we're about to like open escrow that we're like,
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So
so
that's why I get
we're like, no, we're not going to be in escrow for
I get why there's a lot of
year.
salty people in the world right now about real estate agents, because you most likely those people have had a bad experience with somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And it could be as simple as that, where if I were a seller, I don't know to pull a preliminary title report,
No.
right? Like that's not my job. I would have expected you, when you got the listing, you would have pulled that up, you would have contacted your title rep and said, hey,
Yeah.
let's get
No
this out
scary
of time.
things.
Because now as the seller, I'm like, okay, are all agents this
Well,
dumb?
even, okay, 2 story times. I'm going to tell one, you're going to tell the other. Because actually, Paige and I do a lot of co's. Mom and Paige do a lot of co's. Like, so when I say co, it just means like we work as a team for a set of clients, right? So
you can only have 2 people on one thing anyway.
Right,
So
right.
even if we were technically all working on something together, you
Yeah.
can only have 2 people at once.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unless there's dual. Well, I'm not getting into that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, there's one that Paige and I did together. And here's a great example of, even though we did our research, there's still sometimes surprises, not big surprises. We figured it out. But our clients had, we had pulled the prelim and it was pretty vague. So it wasn't until we got into escrow that we figured out actually only the wife's on title, because a couple of years ago she accidentally removed her husband thinking she gave him half. It was this confusing thing because they did it themselves. No big deal. All we did, we had to remove him from the contract. It wasn't that big of a deal because they're selling the house. It wasn't like,
It wasn't.
it was fixable. But the point is, surprises still happen, right? Anyway, side note. Speaking of agents who make too much and don't deserve it, do you remember our clients who sold in San Diego with an 8% listing? And
Lord have mercy.
Wow.
Yes.
let's talk.
So we met on a mom's Facebook group, and fast forward, we met with them, got the signed listing, and I think we charged like 5% total. And
Yeah, because they were really tight.
And they were
Yeah.
they were military too. So, we usually throw people a bone and all that kind of stuff, especially if you're in the service and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you remember the story, Mom, about that? Where
So they sold in San Diego.
Yeah.
So this is what's
Before
crazy.
they met us.
This
Before
is
they
what's
met
crazy. 8% that the listing agent, I think, kept all 6 out of 8, I'm pretty sure.
Whoa.
Then represented them to buy over here, which he didn't know the area. And they ended up having so many issues. He didn't even effing clean the house for them. He didn't even pay for a move-in cleaning.
No, remember there was like there was mold in this. They ended up having to get rid of the whole little island
And
because
replace
there
all
was
the cabinets.
like mold, and they had to replace all
Basically,
the cabinets.
he made a total of 6% on one side and at least 2 or 3 or something on the other side. I don't even want to say how much he made because it was probably like $60,000
to do nothing.
and he did nothing.
Nothing for
He
them.
didn't. I would have, helped them
So,
renovate their
Wait,
kitchen.
where
at
did you
that.
guys come in then?
That's what we helped them
So
sell it.
we helped them sell it
A couple
that
years later.
house.
Yeah, a few years later.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
But the
only
point
like
is,
2 years
that
later or
they
something.
that was their experience of an agent. That's what they charge. So when we came in and we're like, yeah,
And we
5%, they were like,
and we did everything too.
Video.
Like,
Wow. So he just totally took advantage of them
gosh.
not knowing anything.
Old-
well, I'm pretty sure they said that they found the house too. Like he didn't even drive
Yeah.
up there. They found
They
found
I
an
think
open house.
Open house or something.
Wow.
Basically, he didn't. What's crazy is
why you
it
need
was
an
just
area
one of
agent.
those hugely pure examples of why people think agents make too much. He is the prime example.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's the problem.
I'm sorry
yes.
to say that it was a man, but in this industry, I have yet to have other than one good experience with a male, and it's horrible because
Yeah.
I'm married to a man. If I have a son one day, I think men are great people because they're people.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
nothing. I'm not
and
sexist.
as your
but
dad
why-
always says, women are better in real estate.
But yes, in this industry, it's time after time again where I'm like, what is going on? Where are the good men? Because I mean,
Yeah, I've run into only
There are a
You've got
handful.
one that
a handful.
my
Yeah.
husband works
Yeah.
with a male agent, Jake, who's
Yeah.
amazing, and he works really hard, and he's super honest, and he's kind,
Yeah.
and
Gets
at
it
the
done.
Cole gets it done.
Yeah.
But he's one of 15 to 20 in the last couple years.
Okay, you know what, Mom? There has to be. We should just take it back over the years. During the crash, you must have
What did you
some
see?
crazy stories. Like, come on. You got to think back in your
Or
little
even
noggin
in the condition of the homes.
conditions.
Oh.
Like,
Come on.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I did a ton of short sales.
Yes.
Because I advertised like crazy in the local newspaper for short sales.
newspaper advertising.
Yes, newspaper advertising. Hey, it worked.
No, I know.
I know.
It's just
It worked.
It's
It's just funny because it's like 2024.
Yeah. So I had so many short sales, and
What is a short sale?
Explain that real quick.
A short sale is if you
Is it a sale that's shorter?
No. What it means is that if you owe more in your mortgage than what you can sell your house for,
Yes.
you've got a short.
Yeah.
Okay?
You're short.
You're short on what you can pay, what you receive from the sale
What
to
you
pay
can
off
pay
your
back.
mortgage. So you have to get the bank that holds the mortgage to accept less than what is owed. So
Okay.
that is what a short
So
sale
can you
is.
tell us what the average like length of an escrow though was back then?
Oh, back then, my very first short sale took almost a year to close.
Yeah.
That was,
So
I think that was in
if I-
early 2009.
If I could do
Yeah.
some quick math here, if you were going to make, I'll just do easy numbers, 12,000, which, oh my gosh, that's so much
No,
for
but
selling
back
house.
then the
No,
average purchase price would have been.
I'm just saying,
200.
I'm
Yeah.
making numbers
Oh,
easy.
sorry.
$12,000 is so much money, right? For
Uh-huh.
just selling a house.
Yeah.
Well, if it takes a year, you're making $1,000 a month. How many per hour? 5.
I did
less.
sell one just a couple of years ago
I know,
that
I
it took a
remember.
year to sell. And, I think my average was probably $1 an hour by the
Yes.
time I got finished because I was driving to Valley Center and I was talking to people all the time and I was
Yeah.
dealing with attorneys. And I mean,
Oh,
you
and
know,
those attorneys made $1 trillion more than you
yeah.
did.
And that's where, see, this is where I have the biggest problem with that National Association of Realtors settlement is that the attorney that brought it, his whole thing is he's saying that
Realtors make too much.
agents
Yeah.
make too much. And I turn around and I look at them and I'm like, wait a minute, you charge between $250 and $1,000 an hour. And if it's some sort of a settlement where it's, more of a contingency, they'll make 33.33% of the settlement if it doesn't go to trial. If it goes to trial, it is 40% of the settlement. So if someone, brings in $1 million, the lawyer makes 40% of that.
$400,000.
$400,000.
And they say
plus
we make too
their
much.
costs.
Now, I'll give it to you. Lawyers have a lot of schooling. They have a
Yes,
lot
they
of
do.
certifications and licensing that needs to
Bars
happen.
really
and
The
there
bar
are
exam
good
is
ones
extremely
and
hard.
there are bad
Of
ones.
course.
Yes.
They have to be very intelligent and
Yes.
there's a lot more work involved. So I'm not
Yeah.
saying just like, doctors and people who work at the grocery store. Like we're not in that kind of societal hierarchy where that's the case, right? Like we don't need to make the same, of course. But if you're going to point fingers, like what's that saying when you're pointing a finger at
You got three pointing
you got
back
three
at
more
you.
pointing back at you, because that's the truth. Is like, you might really earn that money, but sometimes you make so much off of people and do nothing.
Yeah.
So, man,
But so
it's
but with short sales, you're not just dealing with the seller. Like you have to communicate with the banks. God knows if there's a second mortgage on there.
And you have to know what you're doing. You have to make sure that you get all the correct documentation in and you're dealing with the right people at the bank,
God
and
forbid you miss a document.
Exactly. You miss a document or and thankfully they changed this.
Yeah.
Now there's not dual tracking allowed. Dual tracking was if you were working on a short sale, they were also going to foreclosure at the same time.
Yeah, scary.
Oh,
So if you didn't close and get them to approve a short sale in time,
Foreclosure,
it
yeah,
actually could go to foreclosure when you're getting ready to close.
Here's my favorite. I've heard some stories, and I know, Mom, you probably have some of them. So the condition of a lot of these homes, people were pissed, right? Okay, imagine you spent a lot of money on a house and then it's basically getting taken away from you. You can't afford it because of the market or whatever.
It's like all your funds. Bye-bye.
So some people would put concrete down the toilet, like there's a lot of things.
All the appliances.
Take all the appliances, break
Can I tell
stuff.
you one story?
That's what I'm tell me.
Exactly. It was up in La Cresta. I was actually the listing agent. It was a bank-owned house. It was completely trashed. First,
So
they
sad.
took all of the cabinets
I remember this.
and the appliances in the kitchen. They took all the toilets. They cut out some of the electric. They took the electric panel. They took the
Anything to make some
piping.
money.
They took the piping to the
like the
to the
copper?
water softener. So when water got turned on, it just
Went
gushed
everywhere.
everywhere
Oh,
into
no.
the garage. I mean, it was a mess. It was a complete
Oh, how about
mess.
that one where you were like, there was poop everywhere and you couldn't tell if it was human or animal?
Yes.
That was one. Mom
That
and I
was
saw
terrible.
once. It was a
Oh
big
yeah, and there was a
house.
squatter. There were squatters
squatters
living in it.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that house? Paige and I actually had separate buyers, completely separate times that we showed the same house. But when I walked in with my clients, oh my gosh, I couldn't tell if it was 4 different types of animal pee. I don't know. It's like it should not have been allowed to show without
It
like
was so bad.
It was so bad. Like they should have ripped out the carpet first, opened up all the doors and windows, let it air out, and then allow people to come in. Like it was shocking that like that was toxic.
Yeah.
That was not okay.
I think I've like,
Yeah.
not on purpose, knowing that there was like cat pee or whatever in the house. But when I was super pregnant with one of the kids, I don't remember.
Ammonia.
But yeah, I walked into the house and I looked at my clients and I go, I
can't.
can't. If you want to, you don't have to. You're not required. We can turn around right now, but I will not step foot in that house. I can't put myself at risk. And I'm pretty sure we all just turned around.
I've
and
walked
no.
into houses like that just last year, up in Hemet, where the agent said there may be some mold damage.
There may be black mold.
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, I went in
we
there once.
walk in
Yeah.
and it smelled like mold, and I looked up and the ceiling was black.
Yep.
And I looked at my clients. I go, I'm not going in there. They go, we're not going in there.
Oh, yeah.
And we just turned around and left and locked the door.
This is one of the problems that I noticed with I have some clients that were like okay with fixers, but they had such a low budget that it was like you get a real fixer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I had clients that were looking in the $200 to $250 range,
Like a couple years ago,
and
right?
this is I think it was
Probably
about a year and a half to 2 years ago,
When you
and
could actually get a house
so
for
that basically in this
250.
area the average is like what. 500 or 600 back then. It was maybe 455
Depending on the
right.
area. I think you were looking like Hemet,
Well, we
San
looked in
Jacinto,
Hemet and
right?
Hemet, San Jacinto, Menifee, maybe Menifee, but only manufactured homes. Or there was like one stick built that was like 200 years old. I don't know. But point is, we went into one, and this is where like the mother and ex-teacher in me, heartbreaking. Okay. We went and showed this house that was in Menifee off Newport Road. There's a small manufactured home community over there. And you could tell kids lived here. Chalk on the ground. Like you could tell kids like bunk beds, whatever. The bunk beds were in the living room. But there was trash everywhere, trash overflowing, trash everywhere, knives out. There was a knife on the ground. Like just, it looked like someone just came in and just started throwing stuff around.
Oh my God.
And laundry detergent on the floor, like the powdered stuff that if a kid eats it, toxic.
Yeah.
Right. It was just one thing after another that I ended up calling CPS, and I called the listing agent. I was like, "Are you aware of this?" Because they were tenants. Like I was like, "Does your seller know what is happening in this home?" And you're allowing showings, like people are coming in. I don't know how they thought it would be okay to I'm surprised the tenants were actually reasonable and let people see it. But
Oh my God.
Because they don't
There's
know
no
any
way.
better,
it was
obviously.
horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And I remember like I got a call from CPS later. They wanted my story, and at least they followed up for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened, but
Because they don't tell you. Yeah.
it just
It breaks my heart when I see stuff like that. I've walked into
know.
houses like that before,
And-
you can tell
and
it's
that's
just
nothing compared to
genuinely
what's
heartbreaking.
I
like,
have too. I had a listing.
And
in
the thing at the
in
end of the
Hemet.
day, we as agents can only do so much, right?
of
we
course.
can educate
I'm not
our
a
clients,
savior.
and we can tell them, we can go to the house and say, y'all need to do this. But at the end of the day, if they don't do it and they still are either pigs or they just don't clean up after themselves, it is what it is. But I know when I'm an agent, I can't let that happen.
Yeah.
Like,
by
I
the
will
way,
help
I'm
you.
sorry. And there was mold in the bathroom. I forgot to mention that. There was clearly black mold in the bathroom. So
With little kids living
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
just-
digress.
it's
It was
awful.
horrible. But so
Yeah.
the point is, and this is to say we live in a very privileged area of California in the United States, and that's like nothing. I know there's a lot more going on, but that's what's crazy to me. And still that house probably needing to be basically torn down, $250,000. And that now probably would have been like $3 in that condition.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the cost of things, and then you have no one in your corner to make sure that you can actually like get everything done properly, I mean, you're spending so much money even for a POS that you got to fix up, and you have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well, and we've been in those situations where we're able to front maybe some money, get some things done so that we make it easier for everybody in the entire transaction, make it go, because if a house is completely done, ready to go, like those are going to move faster. The ones that need a little help, need a little love, like those
They
are going to
take
sit on the
longer.
market for a while. So if we can go in there
because
and
people need
help,
more cash to fix it.
yeah, if we can help by maybe fronting some of our funds to get this
Or
thing ready
using
to
our
go
people
and fast,
that
or
will get paid through
yeah,
escrow.
then
Yeah.
that's what we do. But I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday, and I've got a transaction going on that's just, y'all know it's been a day, like since October.
Yes.
But the lady that I was dealing with and I was talking to, she goes, I've never met an agent that has so much patience and communicates as well as you do. And she goes, and I've been licensed for like 30 something years. I used to sell real estate. Now she does some other thing. But it was just nice to hear
Like she
coming
works with
from
the city?
someone else. Yeah, someone completely like I've never even met in person, that she's like, I've never met an agent that would be doing what you're doing. Like they would have
See, I know.
dropped off
I know.
basically.
Exactly.
And you've had your
They
moments.
would
I know
have.
it's gotten really
Yeah.
stressful, and you're like, but mom
you've
has been there to
handled it
help on the
well.
legal side of things, and
Yeah.
also just general support. I mean, that's the thing, is we have extremely stressful jobs in the sense that sometimes it's a 24/7 kind of situation, and it feels like sometimes it's never ending. Things can last months, a year, whatever.
And we have
it
each
can,
other to, that have our backs. That's
Yeah.
the thing, when
Yeah.
we need each other, when you need me to step in, I will always step in. You've stepped
if we're
in.
like, yo, Paige,
you've
you
stepped
can't handle
in
that,
for
tap
me.
out. Tap out.
someone tell me I can do it, Emma. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, you've had to do that with me.
Exactly.
You're like, this
I
lady
know.
she's mean.
Oh,
Paige
yeah.
needs to come in and be mean too.
Yeah. Well, I had that one, and I will always remember this because I was a newer agent, and so I wasn't as good at like standing up for myself and really like using my knowledge, and you ended up coming in and talking to her because she was trying to pull a fast one because, they were contingent on their replacement property, but she didn't divulge all information, etc. And it was like one of those things where you can't act like this is just all okay. Like we have to negotiate this and stuff. And I remember I was really confused too because I was new to those kind of contingencies and stuff. And Paige came in and just like put on speaker, and she just kind of handled it for me. But it was a learning moment too. It wasn't like she was like saved the day, took it over. Like I finished the transaction, but she made sure I didn't get screwed over, and I was still learning. And a lot of new agents don't have that. And so their clients really suffer.
Then they end up getting screwed over.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, and we all make mistakes, but I think it's about how you handle it, Like I made a mistake that almost cost my clients, like, I want to say $2,500. And I did end up using some of my commission because it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I had to learn from it and never make that mistake again, but I
Yeah.
had to learn from it. And even though the agent like knew that, she was like, that's really good of you, like,
And
for doing
own
that,
up to our mistakes
Yes.
too, and
Well,
admitting it.
Yeah.
Exactly is key. You
Versus-
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Versus-
I feel like we do a pretty good job at that. Like if
Yeah.
we, like, oh crap, I forgot to put the home warranty in. Don't worry about it. I got you. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
cover
gonna,
I'm
make
going to
sure
cover
you
it.
pay for
Yeah.
Because there are certain
Yeah.
things that are, it is 100% our responsibility. And if we don't meet that exact, expectation that we know, whether our buyer wouldn't know that, they don't know that automatically we always ask for that or whatever it is. But we know. And so we step in.
Yeah.
Versus like, remember that one where they completely made a mistake on that FHA thing, whatever, and they were trying to make my buyer come up out of pocket, and I was like, that is your mistake. And then he asked me to split the commission difference and whatever. Like,
absolutely not. It's your problem.
not my fault.
Well, it was like
if it was my fault, you got
Then
it.
you would
That's
have.
my
Yeah.
bad.
But even the
Exactly.
one where like that whole thing that went down where the buyer's agent didn't protect his client for something, and I had to step in and I was trying to be nice, which I'm not gonna be nice
Never
anymore.
again.
But that guy sold their house. It was over $1 million.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you he at least made $20,000 to $25,000.
Yeah.
And then he made an additional $25,000 on their
buy side.
purchase. So that dude walked away with $50,000, no repercussions, didn't help them on anything, and
Didn't offer to help on anything.
skated
did
clean.
not, and then
Skated
didn't offer to
clean.
help when there was an issue.
Yes.
That's what
Skated clean.
This
You know
is,
why though? Because he doesn't do that many transactions a year. He does maybe 1 to 3. So yeah, he's clutching at straws because he's not making any income.
Yeah, so even though you're like, oh my gosh, he made $50,000 in a couple months. Well, if that's all he made all year long,
to live in San Diego,
Yeah.
That's not much.
that's like
yeah.
you might as well quit your job and work at McDonald's because I think they make more.
yeah,
If you work
and there's some
full-time.
benefits.
Probably.
And they got good bennies. Hey, go to Starbucks. They give you college education if you work there for long enough. I
Yeah,
think.
seriously. And plus
Wow.
Starbucks has
I don't know.
Okay, pause.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
Wait,
Honestly.
pause for a second. Sorry.
Okay.
I got a call, or someone called me and it went through. Oh, just Mackenzie. What she just, I'm
Don't you know I'm busy?
No, I was thinking it's
So-
Steve because it's on silent. So I was like, okay, if it's coming
it's a
through, it must
favorite.
be like a
Then it's
favorite.
one
So
of our-
I accidentally woke up Mom the other day because I'm apparently a favorite, and she was already
Apparently a
asleep.
favorite. You're her favorite daughter inside the
I know.
phone.
I just mean I didn't realize because she's like, I'm like, Mom, put it on silent. She's like, it is, but you're on my favorite. So
Was that an accident?
no, it was when we were having like our daycare scare situation, and I called her.
yeah.
We still call Mom name for a lot of
I
things.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, we might be 33 going on 34 or 30 years old. Palmer's almost 30.
Palmer's
Look, I'm
almost
still
30.
29
Part
right
of,
now.
she's almost part of the old people's club.
I'm still
know.
Where
29.
hangovers take a week.
I have a few days in my 20s.
Hey, I can't believe my baby is almost 30. Come on.
So I had this contractor, dude, of course, that was kind of low key talking ish on me to my client as far as like me not knowing what I was doing, or or putting in her ear that his ideas were better than mine or something like that. Like I couldn't tell exactly, but I knew that he wasn't a fan of me, and
Yeah.
we had never met, right? Never talked to him, nothing.
Oh, so automatically he hates you because you're a young
yeah,
lady.
yeah. Well, because just because I challenged his experience, like she would ask his opinion and mine and go with mine, right?
Yeah,
and it was
yeah,
like one of those things.
Because she trusts you. Build that trust.
Whatever. It's so dumb though, because when I meet him in person, I've obviously proved my worth in like 5 minutes, and it was a 2-hour conversation among the men. There was about 6 men, and they still had to talk about it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things. Look, again, I'm not sexist, but this keeps happening. And
When they're like, wait, what do they call them? When they're stereotypes for a reason.
yeah. And so a bunch of dudes had to like come up with this same agreement, right? That my client and I agreed on within 5 minutes. It was no big deal. And it was really funny because then after that, then he was like, all right, like giving me props finally. I'm like, okay, whatever.
I don't need your
And then he's like, so
validation.
what are you, like 20? And I was like, well, thank you.
That's actually really good because everyone thinks you're older than me.
I know. I was like, thank you for saying that. But I'm actually 30. Even though I'm 29, especially
Say
in that
30,
situation,
yeah.
I'm going to say 30.
Like,
There's
I'm
a big
40.
difference. I'm actually 45. I would love if I'm 45 and people think I'm 20. But it's just funny because it really proves like everyone wants to look young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone, like, that's the goal. As soon as you get to a certain age, it's all about trying to look
Now
younger.
you're trying to
right?
go backwards.
Except for in a work situation where you truly do look younger, and then they want to like look at you funny for it. You know, it's like,
Excuse me,
actually, you're just
excuse me, sir. I have a master's of education. I am a successful realtor, interior designer.
and business.
Who are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, but it's just funny because I think that is one thing that I actually enjoy, and I know historically speaking, that's all women have really fought for. Though it is against that, right? Really,
Yeah.
to like that's why women have to look super serious all the time, and a lot of women don't end up having children if they want to be successful. All sorts of things, which have slowly started to change and
Okay.
transition, right?
Go back to the monologue in the Barbie movie.
Right.
By America Ferrera.
Facts. If you haven't seen it, if I don't even want you to watch the whole movie, just please
Just watch that.
Fast
Watch
forward
that.
to that. It's probably on
Yeah.
YouTube.
No,
somewhere.
yeah, on
I
YouTube.
know.
Watch that clip
Yeah.
because that is everything that women think
It
in their
is.
brain in a 2-minute
Yes.
monologue.
Yes.
And honestly, it's one of those things that it actually makes me really proud as a woman
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, you might have just thought I was a child and I just proved I wasn't. And thank you. Like, I'm happy about that. I don't care what you thought or what you do think. I'm happy with myself because you thought I was less than, and I know I'm not. And I know as a female-owned company and a female group and a woman-owned situation here, like we all own our own businesses and stuff, I think I'm very proud of us because there's especially this woman right here that has taught us all we know and has been doing this since the dinosaur decade of men ruling the world. I think it's really amazing, that it's come this far.
Well, I always say collaboration over competition, and I think that really transitions us into like women, especially nowadays. I think in the last year, we've all really banded together. Like, for example, I talked to you about this. I talked to you about this. How amazing. I have a great group of women that are agents around the country that we talk once a month. There's a few that I text all the time and we're like besties. Even though I don't see them all the time, I see them once or twice a year.
But also clarify, these are all agents.
They're all
These are
realtors.
agents that are all over the country.
Because it's not competition within, you guys are all fighting for the same houses and clients in the same neighborhoods. You guys are all over. But you can give each other tips. I mean, Susie in Washington, who gave us the ideas about those videos and
educational
and
things.
she's representing my client who's selling in Temecula, moving to Washington, and even your LA friend. I mean, they're kind of all over, and those wonderful ladies on the East Coast. Yeah, I mean,
well, and my friend Autumn, who's based in Orange County, she's mainly in Irvine, but her and I have a call every single week. She kills it on social media. And I met her back in December. Like, I feel like I've known her for years. Like, literally years.
Like, literally.
Yes. But seriously, she was really receptive. I said, listen, I'm trying to grow our social media presence and our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and just do all the things because I want, when people want to work with us, they want to work with us. Like, most of the time when we meet someone, it's usually like...
Well, people love the whole idea of the mother-daughter team, too.
So that's why I'm trying to get us out there. Yeah. And so she's given me a lot of really good tips, and, we bounce ideas off each other, and I obviously bring that back to you guys, and it just makes it nice that I can reach out to somebody, doesn't matter where they live, and they're going to give me ideas, I'm going to give them ideas, and there's like... Someone asked me, they go, oh, they're giving you all this information for free. And I go, yeah, why not?
I mean, it's a give and take and it's a relationship, but it's one of those really important aspects of our jobs when someone is moving to another place, whether out of state or up north or whatever, like how we helped our clients find an agent up north, or the ones in Washington or the ones in Tennessee or wherever. It doesn't matter where, but there's a trustworthy person with good ethics that we interview first. I called, I think, 6 or 7 agents.
Oh, yeah, up in Washington.
For Washington. Most didn't answer my first call. Okay, 2 did out of, I think, 6. The one who answered first on the first ring is one of the ones I picked for my client. At first, I was going to present, I was going to give my client 2 options, right? I say, this is my favorite, I think, but it was hands down her, because the other one who answered on the first ring was super unreceptive, very awkward, didn't understand why I was interviewing her. It was and she was older. Weird. It was very weird. Didn't have really much information to give me because I tried asking her things, about their situation, about the areas, because they hadn't really narrowed it down to one city. It was kind of an hour radius situation. Yeah. Whereas the other agent gave me all these tips, what would be best for them. This area is actually really far, but their money was stretched. All these things. She kind of just gave me information.
Which is what we do when we get referrals. Same thing.
And she had a partner that if, she was sick, out of town, she said, and so there's just so much comfort for me to be able to tell my client who's making their first move in 25 years, easy. And it's one of those really hard things for people to move out of state because maybe they're calling Zillow and they're getting a different agent every time, whatever. Yeah. But now she gets one person she can talk to, one person that they can fly out and meet. Yeah, and one person that will help them talk to me about timelines and communicate. And when you don't have that and you're just like, I'm going to stick a sign in the ground, I'm going to sell their house, good luck on your move. Like, there are so many agents that do that. They're not going to coordinate
because
for
they
you.
they don't have any relationships
Yeah.
with any other agents in different cities or states. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, I think I've gotten like,
You know, it's
just from my
Or they just
massive,
Google it because
It's
they want the
huge.
referral fee, and they're just going to just find someone, and they don't even check.
Yeah.
How do you know they're good or not?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think maybe in the last like 12 months, I've gotten like 4 or 5 referrals from my
Yeah.
big coaching group.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I like talking to people. I talk about my area.
Yeah.
So I'm the first person that they think of when moving to Temecula
Yeah, exactly.
Valley or whatever.
You know our saying, call us, we'll answer. I expect that from other people as well. And so
Yeah.
if they didn't answer on the first time and they didn't send that text, like whatever, or they didn't respond within a few minutes of being, or like trying to call me back, nothing. If it took hours, I'm sorry. Because they had a heads up
You're
that I
out.
was going to be calling. That's the thing. It wasn't out of
Yeah.
the blue.
Yeah, no,
These were
I let
people-
everybody know that Palmer
it was
was
Monday
gonna be reaching
morning.
out.
And so I'm sorry if you happen to be in appointments or whatever, but that just means that you didn't prep yourself, because you would have let Paige know, or me, if it was whatever the night before, hey, I'm going to be in appointments during this time though, so if you call me, I'll call you back, whatever. But there was nothing. It was like, okay, talk to you tomorrow. Didn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. If you were an amazing agent, it was bad timing. I'm sorry.
But she's going to be a great referral partner
Yeah.
out there. And we're
Yeah.
never going to forget
I'm
about
very
her.
confident that it was a great
Like,
decision.
I don't think a
so.
lot of people are moving from Washington, but it's funny because I got a referral from Washington too. And when you
No, you
there's-
had clients move from Washington too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
did.
what I mean is, like, it's funny. There's a website, I think it's called Money Walks or something like that, where it basically shows like where everyone's moving from. And Washington is not there.
Yeah.
Washington is not on the list.
Yeah.
for people
Not a
coming
lot of
to
people
our
moving.
area.
Well,
No.
because I think it's
Yeah.
pretty comparable in prices. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily more or less
It is.
expensive, because you notice people usually move from a more expensive area to a less expensive area unless it's work related or, some other reason. But for
Yeah.
the most part, we're seeing so much movement outside of those expensive areas, not into them.
Yeah.
Because Washington and Oregon and California, I mean, we're all pretty expensive states.
Yeah.
Because we beautiful.
Yes.
Exactly.
But I mean, I know you've had a good experience with a lot of outside agents too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got one that even if, let's say, all of us go on vacation, we have an amazing agent out here that we could say, hey, Heather,
Yeah.
we're going
girl.
to Costa Rica for a couple weeks.
As a family.
you help
take
Will
us?
you take
Yeah.
over? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she would, hands down.
Yeah.
Because she's helped Palmer, she's helped me, like Palmer's helped her,
yeah.
like all the things, you know? And
Just a solidly good person.
yeah, it's just really nice. So that's why and it was funny because when I went to that conference in February, I don't think I had dinner or lunch or anything with a dude. Everything was strictly women.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my friends from Arizona, and she goes, "Yeah, I don't really either. Everything's
That's
just
what I mean. It's so
women."
weird. And it's
Yeah.
like, my husband's our mortgage lender. He's a dude. Our dad, the broker,
My husband's a
her broker,
dude.
is a dude. Yeah. Like our brother Tyler, who's a contractor, he's a dude. Like we work with males, but for some reason, like strictly agents. And I said this to my client because I was like I was just trying to talk out why it is that I think women are better agents. And I said I think it's because there's whether you're an actual mother or not, there's some motherly aspect and gentle patience that comes with a very stressful home buying and selling situation. And women, statistically speaking, are better at multitasking, even though no one's really good at multitasking. But women technically are better. And there's so many moving parts that and we all know this. If you are either married to a woman or if you are friends with a woman or whatever, that we kind of just always are thinking of everything. Like, if I have to do 10 things in my house, my husband thought of 2, but I'm like,
And it's the empathy. It's the empathy
Yeah.
thing too.
And the compassion, like we can
There's just something about
just
it.
draw in and the thing is also a good agent will hide the stress and do our best to go through the transactions without any issues. And there may be issues, but our clients aren't going to know
They
about
don't
it
need to know unless they got to sign
have
for it.
to
Unless they got to sign
know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, I've had transactions where they're just like, oh, that was so easy. At the end, I'll be like, well, let me tell you. And they go, I had no idea.
Oh, I know. I love it. I love it when you can tell them after the fact and just say, I had no idea. They say, I had no idea that was going on.
Yeah, like a negotiating repair request or something. Like they had no idea on the back end. The seller was saying no, but at the end they ended up getting what they wanted.
Yeah. Because sometimes.
I mean, and depending on our clients, like I know we have had some clients. I know I had, they were just a multifamily, but they were hilarious, where they really were also about the ethics of the other agent and seller.
Oh yeah,
remember
that's
that?
right. They
and
were
so
like, oh.
and so one of the reasons we canceled on the one that had the appraisal issue and whatever, because the agents and the sellers weren't owning up to their mistakes, and they didn't want me to put any of my commission. They were like, no, this just isn't meant to be. Then it was really funny.
So they canceled on a house,
but there were others where like. It was almost like a vibe thing. They could just tell that they weren't going to be honorable people.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that should determine whether you love a house or not, but
it does for some
people.
But
some people really put a lot of weight into
the
their feeling.
Asian culture does that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And into feelings.
And Mexican culture, I think, does as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I think because a lot of things are family oriented, but it's also being, oh gosh, what's that word? I mean, honorable is like the best one I can think of, but where you truly are a woman or man of your word. And so anything deceitful, or you're not taking,
it's a big like
you're not
anything
taking
that's perceived as being underhanded in any way. There are a lot of people that
I
are
think
just like,
everyone should be like that. But because like I had my first time home buyers that we didn't know until after close that they had hidden this leak thing behind the TV or whatever. It was like this whole thing, right?
That. Yeah.
But they had a hard time even trying to go after them because the sellers just had a newborn. It was this whole thing. So even though the sellers were deceitful and they could have totally gone after them for non-disclosure, it could have been a huge lawsuit actually, and it could have gone, into mediation and arbitration, and they would have small claims. They would have made at least 10,000, I would guess. But they didn't do anything, and it was because they were just like, no, they just had a baby, and she was pregnant with her second. It was like a whole thing, and it was more about just letting it go.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Versus some people would be like, no, sue happy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I met someone who I ended up having to walk away from because she just kept throwing out the word sue, and
that she just sues everyone around her.
Sue everybody, and I look at Jill and I go,
Scary.
I don't think
not
so.
Not a good
I don't want to
fit.
be.
No.
I don't want to be involved in that because no matter what we do, it's one of those things that she's gonna find something. And
because we're not
scary.
perfect,
No.
nobody's perfect, and if you've got
they're
a
gone, I'm
client
suing
that is just
everybody.
looking for that little chink in your armor where she can stick her finger in and poke you,
when you got,
it's not worth it.
You got family to protect,
Yeah.
and you start hearing the word suing and go, I'm gonna take a step back here. I do not want to do it.
I am not gonna take your $2 million listing.
Yeah,
I know.
It's just money. Money is not worth peace of mind.
Object.
Yeah,
really.
If money is your only issue, there's no issue.
No issue.
Yeah,
Scott Hardy.
Scott Hardy.
Money's your problem.